Nick Cannon recently apologized for his comments that he had on his podcast 2 weeks ago with Professor Griff because he was fired, and they said he was fired for not apologizing for his anti-Semitic comments on the podcast. And I'm like, okay, it's his platform. He's speaking. For me, I listened to the whole thing. I think he said things way worse about white people than he did to the Jewish community. I don't feel like he said anything anti-Semitic about the Jewish community, but, you know, I might be wrong there. We might be able to nitpick and reach into the little things he said. But for the most part, he was talking about control over the media, and he named certain corporations that were affiliated with world banks or whatever. And whenever you talk about Jews having any type of control over anything, they scream anti-Semitism. Like, you cannot comment on their community at all because anything you say is deemed as anti-Semitic. He spoke about the black Jews and the different history and everything. He went into detail and things that I'm not fully knowledgeable about, so I'm not going to speak on the history of that. But my major issue is Viacom and CBS fired him expeditiously. They didn't even give him room for the apology. They said he got fired because he didn't apologize. He ended up apologizing for people that may have been offended by his comments, but for the most part, they fired him with the quickness. And it's like, okay, how many other white folks have said crazy shit on their podcast and haven't been fired from the organizations they've been on? Joe Rogan said nigger on his podcast a bunch of times. And if you want to nitpick into the minutia of the things that Nick Cannon said to say he was anti-Semitic, a white person using the word nigger on their airways is automatically deemed racist regardless of what context or who the fuck you're quoting. You're not supposed to say that word. Bill Maher said that and got destroyed. He had to go on a whole apology tour. He had Ice Cube come on his show and fucking completely lecture him to try to actually, you know, fix whatever he said. But Joe Rogan says it multiple times. He's not being fired expeditiously by the UFC and the organizations he works for. So it's like, I'm not going to get into the Joe Rogan, is he actually racist? But I've seen the episodes with him saying it, but they don't act that fast. But you see a different type of shit whenever it happens to black people. The black community on social media and in the streets stood up for Nick Cannon. We're riding for Nick Cannon, regardless of if he's right or wrong. We're not canceling him over comments that he made on his podcast. It's his podcast. It's his platform. He's having a conversation with Professor Griff, and he's losing all his jobs and endorsement deals, and he's getting fired with the quickness. It's like, that's absolutely ridiculous. He actually took down his episode of that podcast with Professor Griff. He ended up getting silenced. And I'm like, that shit is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That's your platform. I will not ever delete a single episode of the podcast, regardless of what type of fuck shit I end up saying. I'm not gonna practice any hate speech. But for any reason anyone tries to look at anything I say as hate speech, I'm not taking down shit. I don't have I don't have partnerships with these large corporations that could fire me and control what the fuck I say and the type of content I put out on my podcast. You've seen it happen to academics. He said something on Twitch. Twitch suspended him. Complex suspended him. We ain't gonna have none of that shit. We're gonna talk bluntly and loosely on this shit, and we're gonna ride out with whatever we said. I said what the fuck I said when I say what I say. You know what I mean? I'm not taking back none of that shit. I'm not with any of that cancel culture. They're so quick to cancel black people for the shit that they say, but you have all sorts of people, Tucker Carlson, all sorts of wild people saying all sorts of racist shit daily on their show, and they're not being fired expeditiously. So I have a fucking problem with that. I'm not riding with that at all.